Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to discuss the HEX price compared to the Ethereum price. Both of these charts overlaid on each other, where on the x-axis you have time in days, yet on the vertical axis, instead of price, because as we know, HEX is only 2 pennies, yet Ethereum was dollars here, instead of price, we have ROI from launch day. So they both start at 1, and then every subsequent price data point on any given day is divided by that day 1 price. So you can see here that for both HEX and Ethereum, when they launched, they essentially went down for a while. Ethereum lost 75% of its value in 75 days. That's kind of funny. HEX in the first 22 days went down more than 80%. So we have these sort of hype cycles, you could say, right before a project launches. A bunch of people, pent up economic energy buys in. Maybe there's some sort of free claim mechanism, as there was in HEX. So you see some people dump their free coins, for example. Yet that was mitigated by the design of the actual coin. There was a sort of an auto lockup of 90%, sort of like traditional, initial offerings, I guess you could say. That's probably a bad analogy. Regardless, I digress. There's this sort of initial region where you would have been underwater for a period of time if you had bought on day 1. So on day 20 or day 75 for Ethereum and HEX respectively, you would have seen your best returns. I think I said that backwards. So on day 22 or so for HEX, on day 75 or so for Ethereum, if you had bought in those days, you would have captured the absolute lowest point in history, which would have been heroic to say the least. But in both coins, you had this period of time where with Ethereum, it took almost 6 months for the day 1 guys to just break even on their money, right? Go from being in the red to just back to where they started. 6 months almost. And with HEX, it was about 4 months. So you can see that each of them broke essentially their day 1 price and went on to rally to this near 10x region, give or take a few x, for each coin respectively. Again, HEX did it sooner, just the same as it broke out sooner. So you see this kind of pattern, right? You see it overperform in terms of price appreciation and do it a little faster, which I find incredible given where ETH is at now, right? Just $2,000 per ETH when we're talking it was dollars here, just in the single digits. So enjoy this chart, appreciate it, because I'm about to show you this same chart from a different angle. Right, so I asked myself, is there a way to represent whether HEX was overperforming or underperforming Ethereum in this period of time? And the answer is yes. You simply divide one by the other and you get this performance index on their ROIs. So up here, whenever you see a huge gap of underperformance on the HEX side, you see this downward spike, right? Whereas when you see these overperformance gaps, which get really large at some points, you see this insane spike. For example, here on day, let's say 150 or so, we're at about 12x from launch day price on HEX, whereas we were about half a launch day price on Ethereum. So you get this sort of 12 divided by 0.5 is around a 24x or so of overperformance. So this is an index on how well each coin is performed in that sort of launch to first 1,000 days of existence window. And I'm impressed. I'm impressed by the performance of, you can clearly tell which coin I'm impressed by. So whenever you have these regions here where the curves essentially hug each other damn near perfectly on some of those occasions, as you can see here, that's when on this chart you see the pink curve come back to this green line. We essentially mapped this entire Ethereum normalized ROI from launch curve into a line and then mapped the relative position of the hex curve accordingly, right? And so we can see where we're at now is just an easy 6.5x. So let's say, just a theoretical, thought experiment, if we were to reach the same level of overperformance of 23.5x, let's say it took us, a few days to get there, day 500, you would have to look at what price Ethereum was at, day 500, about just a 4.5x from launch. So what would it mean for HEX to be 23.5x overperforming that? 23.5 times 4.5 is about 105.7x from launch day, which was, I have that price in my mind, so that puts us at about almost 6 pennies per hex, right? In potentially the next month or so. So the previous video where we saw bull subcycle ROI with the sort of the characteristic curve of a bull rally, the characteristic structure you could call of a typical bull rally, which lasts anywhere from a month to 2 months, we saw as a reasonable target to expect 4.5 cents. So what this calculation said was 6 cents. So you can tell that we have this kind of target region of 4 to 6 pennies per hex in the next month or so, potentially, if we keep up with previous either overperformance regions or previous bull rallies. Could we just consolidate here? Potentially. Could we go down from here? Potentially. And remember that this curve here, I should call this performance index. Let's call it that here. So keep in mind that this curve here is sort of a lagging indicator and responds to what price is actually doing. So if HEX, say, were to consolidate around here, maybe just form another little bull flag or ascending triangle like it loves to do, remember that price here was going down. So if we were to just go sideways on the HEX price relative to what already happened in Ethereum, this curve would actually keep going up because it's a ratio, right? And if you make the denominator if you make the denominator smaller, I'm tired, and the numerator stays the same, then the actual ratio goes up. Some simple math for you. This is like elementary stuff. So with that said, could we continue to overperform? Do we have the momentum? And could we potentially see a 4 to 6 cent hex in the next 30, 50 or so days? Yes. Anything could happen. Again, this is not financial advice. You're a generic disclaimer for this video. And with that said, I will go ahead and end here. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. And I will catch you in the next video. Make sure to follow on Twitter as well. I'll leave a link to my socials down below. So I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.